The danger in being a DP is if you read the script before you know what the director is thinking about visually, you're going to have trouble because when you read the script, you're going to watch that movie in your head. And if that doesn't line up with the director's thing, you're setting yourself up like diverging path. Basically, what I did was I told Robert, give me like a vibe. Give me just like anything to go on that'll keep me on similar train tracks to yours in terms of what this movie is going to look like. My favorite way to do that is give me a few movies, like anything that'll say, this scene from this movie is great for camera movement. This scene, I love the lighting in it, like that kind of thing. Use pictures to communicate the idea of pictures.
Hi, I'm Gordon Burkell from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. You can learn more at filmmakeru.com or, of course, follow us on Instagram at filmmaker_u. Every week, we interview a film professional to discuss their work, and this week I'm joined by cinematographer Sean Emer, whose work recently included the feature film Renner, starring Frankie Munez. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Hey there. Thanks for having me. I do want to say, and this is not your fault at all, my last name is pronounced Emer. That only one person in the history of my life has ever gotten it right on their first try, and it was a waitress in in a restaurant in New Jersey on the boardwalk. So,
How did you get your start in the business?
so I did the film school route. I went to film school. I went to Hofstra University, which is on Long Island, New York, and that was great. It was awesome. Back then, I don't know what they do now, but back then we shot all of our school projects like on film, and we got to even cut, 16 millimeter on, like Steenbeck, reel-to-reel machines and everything. It was a really, really good education, but also film school doesn't get you jobs.
Yeah.
What does get you jobs is, knowing people and networking, which is really just making friends. So it was that network of friends that I had made in film school, both in my own year, we all road tripped out to Los Angeles after we graduated, and then also our friends who were older than us and had come out to LA and had already been there for a year or two, that sort of helped support us. When we first came out to LA, and I only spent 2 days in Los Angeles sleeping on the floor of my apartment because I hadn't bought a bed yet before I had my first job as a PA on a movie, and it was all through friends that I had made in film school, and that's from there it was just all about eating the rice and beans and the cold cut sandwiches to make ends meet until nice projects could come along.
I sort of got into VFX by accident. I always had a technical interest in photography and especially as it relates to movie making. There's something magical about the ability to believe something is happening when it isn't. So I went as a live action producer into a company called Bob Abel and Associates. Then I would have to, have a meeting about how do we do this effect that's in this commercial, and I never got the straight answer I was looking for. I have camera knowledge, so it's like, since it's kind of ambiguous, why don't I just grab a camera and we'll try it out. You have to figure out what tells the story and use every trick in the book to solve your problem. I am Rob Legato, and this is my course on visual effects.
So you were in Long Island. So what made you want to come out to LA versus staying in New York's film scene?
Well, I grew up in New Jersey, and which is a part of New Jersey that was very close to New York City, and I don't know, that had been like my environment for my entire life, and so something about Los Angeles had like this mystique of like adventure to it that was. That's a pretty important thing to you when you're like 18 to low 20s and you're looking to find out about the world. So I think what it was mainly was that sense of adventure, but also making movies in film school in New York. Man, there's just no parking. The elevator, if there is an elevator, doesn't work. You're carrying all this gear upstairs, and it's always like raining and snowing and thunderstorming. And while I miss all of those things, as just like a person living in Los Angeles, I do not miss it when I'm on set. In LA, it's always 75 degrees, and it almost never rains. And there's always parking, and the elevators are big and roomy and spacious, and sometimes they even give you a freight elevator. It's just, I think, a better like a specific like ergonomic experience for like the labor side.
So how did you get involved with Renner, the feature film?
So I got involved through KT Kent, one of the producers on it. I'm married to her, and she and I had worked with Robert, the director, Robert Ripberger, on previous projects. We had all worked together on a feature film in 2021. I want to say it was the first movie that we all did post COVID. Really during COVID, if you think about it,
Yeah.
we were masked up the whole time, and getting the tests every day and everything. And we had vibed together well on that project, and then I shot a short film with Robert between that feature and Renner. Just kind of like it was one of those like passion project, like, hey, somebody's got a script, you want to go make a movie, like one of those kinds of
Mhm.
things. And we worked pretty well visually there. We were on the same page, and it wasn't like pulling teeth to get our ideas across, which is like, that's like 90% of the important thing in a relationship between a director and a DP. So I assume that that's why he came to me with Renner. I never asked him why, because then I would look like I had imposter syndrome or something like that,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, from then on, I think I got the script for Renner that same year that we did all those other projects.
So how did you work with the director to sort of come up with the look and the feel for this? Like, what was your sort
Yeah.
of, I guess, creative process with him?
So the danger in being a DP is if you read the script before you know what the director is thinking about visually, you're going to have trouble, because when you read the script, you're going to watch that movie in your head, and if that doesn't line up with the director's thing, you're setting yourself up on like diverging paths, right? So basically, what I did was I told Robert, hey, give me like a vibe, give me just like anything to go on that'll like help keep me on similar train tracks to yours in terms of what this movie is going to look like. And my favorite way to do that is to have the director not write like a three-page paper on the color and the tone and the contrast and everything. That's my job later. I was just like, give me a few movies or commercials or scenes, or
Mhm.
like anything that'll say, this scene from this movie is great for camera movement. This scene, I love the lighting in it, like that kind of thing. Use pictures to communicate the idea of pictures. And he gave me I want to say it was 1960 or 1959 movie, The Apartment, which was cool, because I was like, I thought this was like a sci-fi, like a psychological thriller kind of movie.
Mhm.
And he's throwing out this like classical black and white moving master kind of movie. And then his second reference was the 2022, something like that, AI colorful soft lit horror movie Megan.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, what? You want it to look like both of these? It would, you get extra credit in film school if you could write an essay on how they had similarities between them.
Yeah.
Um, so that was, initially like my head was spinning around, trying to figure out what to do with that reference, and I was thinking like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. What are we doing here? Um, Once I like sat down and I started looking at it and looking through it, I kind of started to get the vibe of what he was after there, and he did a good job in giving me that like mashup of like very different styles, not just black and white versus color, but like everything about it is different. Megan is very like on location. It's very environmentally lit. It's very soft lit. It's very motivated with its sources. Whereas the apartment is, like, we need a light on the wall, so we're gonna put a light on the wall. Like they just, it was a very different kind of filmmaking.
Mhm.
So what we ended up with was going for the more Megany sort of like modern zeitgeisty look in terms of soft keys, lighting spaces, all of that. Like the main body of the style would lean in that direction. If you were thinking about like the font, of the movie, like the shape of the letter was going to be Megan, and sort of like that modern look. And then the serif, like the little stylings that you
Mhm.
put on the font, that would be more back to the old studio style. So we worked in our little flourishes here and there, because Robert's a big fan of that style of filmmaking. So I did lots of like really hard, strong, unmotivated backlights. We used to translate outside of the window instead of like a big fancy LED wall. Just like little things like that. We had them like step into mark sometimes if it felt like it would be okay in the story that we weren't taking too much of a license with it. I did some fun split diopter shots that they didn't make it into the movie, but I'll die mad that they didn't show up because they were they were cool. They were cool.
Well, but color plays an important role in like the way you approached it. So like I
hmm
guess you know like how did like what were the choices behind the specific colors and why you
Yeah.
went with them?
We wanted the color of the city to be, like the city light that plays up through Renner's window
Mhm.
to be something that felt both futuristic but also a little bit sterile. Because Renner is in a very static place. He's sort of stuck, but he's also very neatly stuck. So the idea was the cyanish kind of color that we went
Mhm.
with. I thought worked really well with both of those. Cyan's a very strong color in like neon lighting and cyberpunk and vaporwave and all of that, which was the kind of futurism that Robert was interested in. So that was an easy pick, coming through the windows and then lighting some of the accents and all that kind of thing inside of Renner's apartment. Uh, the complementary color to that was magenta, pink,
Mhm.
which works because that's right there. That's basically the two vaporwave colors. But also pink had like a little bit more of like the life and the blood and the romance and the life in motion kind of vibe to it. So we gave magenta more to Jamie and Jamie's apartment, where we
Mhm.
had a lot stronger colors. From there, and then we dashed it in obviously in the hallway and various other places in the movie. But those were our two key colors. Basically, was the cyan and the magenta.
Interesting. How did because you talked about you went to the director and then sort of got vibes off him.
hmm
But how did the script inform your work in this?
Um, I mean, the real question is how the script doesn't inform the work. It's because like everything comes off of the script. I had an
Mhm.
idea for this awesome shot, and I came to Robin and was like, yo, what if we did this thing and we did a match cut and the day changes, and then we can like come down from the match cut and it'll be like a super smooth transition. And Robert's like, well, yeah, but there's no day change in the scene. They can't because, the story requires that it's still is the same day so that when the next thing happens, and I had just like misread it in the script and I was like, God damn it. So, you have to stick to the story and, the job of the director in a lot of ways is to keep, everybody on the tracks because, just like in that example, like we'll all go off and start thinking about like, oh, it'd be cool if we did this, it'd be cool if we did that.
Yeah.
Um, but it's story, story, story. You gotta stay on track with that. And what the script really did for us was it focused the story very efficiently on like three spaces, right? It's Jamie's apartment, it's Renner's apartment, and it's the hallway.
Yeah.
And that's it. And a lot of movies or most movies really have tons of locations, exterior locations. They're going all over the place, and you're like moving your units around and stuff. And for this one, it the script made it feel like sort of like a bottle episode, like everybody stuck in the elevator, uh, which is what the movie is. It's a little
Mhm.
bit of a pressure cooker from Renner's perspective, right? So that pushed us towards, okay, well, how do we shoot this to make it feel that way? And that changed how we approached our close-ups, like closer wides versus backing up and zooming in. Things that make you feel more claustrophobic, and like keeping the light very pooled, even in
Mhm.
Renner's safe space. It's never like a fully lit space. It's always like little pools of light that he's moving between. Um, and that was just all those a thousand different little things that we did to try and you know do that, but also if we're being pragmatic, keeping it interesting, right? Because it's over an hour long and it's three locations, so you have to keep them from getting dry. And so we tried to find a style that was going to help the story, but also keep it interesting for people watching.
How did you, because I'm not a fan of gore, and there's some gory stuff in here.
Yeah.
So, what was it like shooting that? Was there, lots of prosthetics and stuff? Like, how did you go about tackling lighting that stuff?
Yeah, the gore scenes, the gory bits, especially those close-ups specifically, um, were tricky, and it was more a thing of editing, right?
Yeah,
Editing right at the right moment with the right, uh, like on the motion and all of that, because I mean, if you haven't watched the movie and you're worried about spoilers, get out. But for example, when the fingernails are coming off, we didn't have the budget or frankly the time to go in and do like a full like fingernail attachment with like
yeah,
all the stuff and then and like pull it off slowly. We just had fake fingernails that we put the blood on and then put it on top of his finger that we had covered his actual fingernail on, just bloody, gory, goopy stuff. And then it was just whoop, 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 whoop.
yeah.
There was no attachment or anything. So it was all about just getting the edit like exactly right, where you see like Frankie do this and then you see, just a millisecond of the nail coming off. Um, but really, a shot like that isn't something that requires like special lighting because the power of the shot is in the viewer watching it and knowing what's happening and just sort of like extrapolating, the horror internally. I think I might have for those close-ups just like pumped up the backlight a little bit and killed our key and fill just a tad to bring the edge out.
Yeah.
But that wasn't like a stylistic thing. That was more of I know that this is only going to be on screen for like a second, so I got to make sure that everybody registers the shapes and where the pieces are. You know what I mean? I think the only thing I would say that was like a direct stylistic, yeah, oh, thank you. Uh, a direct stylistic like contribution to that is when the pliers are coming in to the finger, we did like a fixed perspective thing where we actually, with I think with some Noga arms or something, we rigged the pliers in front of the camera so that I could move the camera and the pliers would go with it as if we were attached to them. And that had this kind of like mechanical feeling that came down and made it more methodical and sinister, in my opinion. And when I was watching it in the theater around the corner, some of the people in the audience on that shot were like, and I was like, oh, you haven't even seen the Dale come off yet, so I guess we did it.
Probably one of the smartest things I've ever done for my career. It gave me all the tools that I needed to be able to jump into a new career. Getting myself into a mindset, thinking like an editor, and being around people that I can talk to on that level was really invaluable to me.
A lot of the things that I learned from that class, I still think about.
I loved the classroom. I loved the computer stations. We built a sense of community.
And it also instills a lot of confidence in you to take that and go out into the world.
After I took the class, I felt very prepared to take the next step.
I owe Manhattan Workshop the career that I have right now. Things have been going great, and I really have the Manhattan Workshop to thank for that.
Because there's lights that are sort of embedded in certain parts angularly for
Yeah.
architecture. So what was your work like with the production designer to sort of be able to embed lights in and utilize them?
That's an excellent question, and that is, I'm going to need coffee for that. So that was probably maybe the hardest part of prep for Renner was these inset lights. And just for context, the movie budget-wise, I don't know the exact numbers, but the budget of the movie and the time that we had to shoot was more akin to like a Lifetime or a Hallmark movie than it was to like a quote-unquote real feature film. We had 15 days to shoot, and I couldn't imagine that it went over a million or so. So we had to get this futuristic vibe in 3 sets, and the best way that we could think to do that without like flashy LED walls and visual effects and CG and everything is to make the sets futuristic and inset with lights. And we already knew that Robert liked the neon and the vaporwave and everything, so we knew that we were going to have these lights in the set from the beginning. but we didn't know how we were going to make the budget work to actually get them in there. So I had quotes out to like 20 different companies, just like looking for LEDs. Because coming from the film industry, you immediately think, like, okay, Lightyear's light ribbon is like perfect for this, right? You just get a bunch and you cut the holes or whatever, and you put it in, you put the diffuser on. But it was very, very expensive to do that. So I was looking at like architectural companies, like the companies that will come and like put all the fake neon flourishes on the movie theaters and everything. And everywhere I was going, it was just too expensive. And Sonia, our production designer, introduced me to somebody that she had worked with on another project, I think the year before. His name was Brent Wilson. And Brent is like a fixtures guy. Fixtures foreman. I forget exactly what the cool union title is that he gets, but he earns it. He earns it. Absolutely, he does. And he basically came in, looked at our ask, and our ask basically was, we had plans of the sets, and we knew that we wanted them here, 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 and here, and we did like a total. This is the total length that we need, but also you need to account for like the extra. And Brent was like, I got it. he knew already. So he came in, he quoted the whole thing out. And we got it with the light gear, light ribbon, along with DMX controllers and everything like that. And he got like a really good deal because there was some like leftover from a project, and he knew a guy and everything like that. So it was absolutely like a labor of love kind of flavor, because he liked the script and he liked us, and he really came in and saved our butts on it. He came in, I think like a week, maybe 2 weeks before we started shooting, installed everything. Dropped the DMX controllers for my gaffer, Corey Green, who could come in and plug in, and then he'd have all of his control on his app, whichever one he was using. I think it was either Blackout or the other one that we don't use anymore. And once it was set, he was like, "Later, guys." Like he stuck around for one day of production and then went home. And that was like the key lighting design for all of the hallway, the A-frame hallway in Renner's apartment, and everything. It was really good. He did a fantastic job.
Now, I have one last question that I like to do to wrap up interviews, and that's, what's your favorite guilty pleasure film or TV show to watch?
It depends on how guilty we're going. I would say up until like 5 years ago, I would have said like Independence Day, but that's not really a guilty pleasure because that's like legitimately a fantastic movie. So guilty pleasure, like I don't want this getting out completely, is something that I actually just saw earlier this month, which is Sonic 3.
My
Now,
daughter
Sonic
and I
3, yeah. Sonic 3 is it's like a kids movie and everything, and it's not like, I don't want to say it's not good filmmaking, because it is in a certain way, but it's not a film, it's a movie, right?
Yeah.
But my God, is it fun to watch if you're just there to just unwind and like unplug your brain from something. The ridiculous things that they do in that movie that are clearly made to entertain the parents that are going to see it like 20 times because their kid wants to put it on every day. Man, what a trip. It was fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
Yeah, of course.
And that's it for this week, everyone. Make sure to check us out at filmmakeru.com and, of course, on Instagram at filmmaker_you. I'm Gordon Burkell. Thanks for watching.